bump, bump, ba-da-da, bump, bump. A little bit of a solo bendy today. Welcome to another edition of the Blue Review presented by LAX. I am Marcus Grant. No Greg Bergman, no Parker Bell today, although Parker, I think, is lurking somewhere in the shadows, helping us get this thing up and running. But I am joined by the one and only Clint Pasillas. Clint, how are you, man?
We are doing good, Marcus. Like I told you just before we went live, anytime we're coming off a couple of wins for the Dodgers, I just feel better. I wake up better.
Yeah, exactly. The world seems better. The sun shines brighter. The skies are even bluer after a Dodger win. They got one last night by a score of 6-2. So back-to-back wins for the Dodgers. A series win, Clint, after they had lost the previous 3 series in a row. So look, I know it's April. We'll talk about this, but anything is a positive after the way the last week or so has gone for this team.
Listen, this was a team that needed to feast on the Rockies, and they have done so far. I'm enjoying it, and we'll talk about it coming up, I'm sure. But we got Bobby Miller making his 2025 debut, so we get to see what the continued depth of this Dodgers pitching staff and starting rotation looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll dive into that at some point. But wanted to talk to you about a thing that you and I were sort of chatting about before we came up live here. But by the way, before we get into that too, want to give a shout out to the folks at LAX. As always, they are transforming the travel experience, trying to save guests time and just make life generally better when you get to Los Angeles International Airport. You can check it out at flylax.com/transforming LAX. But Clint, you and I were talking before the show about the way things are going right now. The Dodgers are 13-6. They are still very much in the hunt, a whole game and a half back of the Padres in the NL West. But you made the point, and I don't think you're wrong, that there just seems to be some tension among the fan base. I mean, is this just the crushing weight of expectations and the team somehow underperforming at this point?
I mean, underperforming to their own lofty expectations
Right.
for sure. But anytime you're, what are they at, 13-3, or that might be the Padres, 12-4. Dodgers are a very good baseball team that have some holes, and yeah, the tension has been palpable to the fan base. I think you have that worry about, hey, is there a World Series hangover? Are they going to look as bad as they did early in 21, coming off of that 2020 championship, which of course they still did make the postseason, make it to the NLCS and all of that. But there's even with the team, it feels like last year, obviously, it was a very similar start to the season, but they felt like a little more loose to me. The team itself felt like they were having a little bit more fun. Right now, it seems like they're kind of getting bombarded with a lot of questions they don't want to keep talking about. The center field situation, of course, all the things traveling east and all of that. They just want to go out there and keep playing some baseball and let the season mature, and hopefully fans and everybody's perspective. And not to say I've been perfect about it. I'm like, what the heck is going on here?
Right.
But all of our perspectives will mature as the season keeps going along. At least that's how I feel.
No, I'm with you. And Greg and I talked about this a couple days ago on this show that, he asked me what my feelings were like. Am I frustrated? And I said, I sit and I watch them some nights, and I watch them struggle to get big hits with guys in scoring position, or watch the bullpen struggle in the late innings. And, I get frustrated and upset. And then I look at the calendar and I look at the date, and I see that, today is April 16th, and early. There's so much time left in this season. And as you were talking about the start, I went through and I went and looked up what their record was after 19 games. This year, after 19 games, they are 13-6 and a game and a half back. Last year, after 19 games, they were actually 2 games worse. They were 11-8. They did have a 1-game lead in the division, but they were 11-8. They had just lost 2 out of 3 to the Padres. They had just lost a game to the Nationals. In fact, they were about, I'm looking at this. They lost a series to the Padres. They would lose a series to the Nationals, and then they lose 2 out of 3 to the Mets. So they actually lost 3 straight series in mid to late April last year. And at one point they were 12-11. And I think we were probably having a similar conversation about what's wrong with this team. So,
exactly. This team had just got Shohei. How are they bad? What's going on here? Bad. Right. I think they're still on pace for like 105, 106 wins this season. So it's different when the Padres have come out as hot as they are. And, credit to the Padres for beating bad teams, which they've mostly played bad teams. Playing the
Mm.
Cubs is the only time they kind of lose. But the rumors of the Dodgers' demise are greatly exaggerated here in the month of April, and we still have, oh my God, so much more baseball to go.
So much more. Well, let's talk a little bit about last night, a 6-2 win on Jackie Robinson Day at the ballpark, and Landon Knack getting the start as the Dodgers still try to kind of fiddle with, filling in the gaps from Blake Snell and what have you. Knack's previous start was not a good one. This one seemed a little bit better. What did you see out of him yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, you saw a lot better command out of Lando, as I like to call him. Still not a great start, but good. He gave the team. I said this last night in our post game show. Myself, Alana Rizzo, co-host, Dodgers Territory, of course, part of the Foul Territory Network. Shameless plug, but
Absolutely.
what I saw from him again, significantly better command than what we saw in Washington. Of course, he spent some time cleaning up some things in between his starts with Mark Pryor and company, but still having some difficulties with that first pitch strike, letting the leadoff batter get on, I think, in 3 of his 5 innings. But overall, found a way to limit damage, did exactly what this team needed. Little bit of a stopgap there while they needed a couple of starters with Blake Snell down. And he will get the unceremonious send off to AAA later this afternoon as Bobby Miller makes his way back to LA. But still, Landon gave this team exactly what they needed, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I mean, like, again, they are just trying to fill in the gaps, knowing that they want Yamamoto and Sasaki sort of on that once-a-week schedule that they've had them on, knowing they're not going to have Snell for probably at least one more turn, I would think, through the rotation. Yeah. It seems like the expectation that is. So, just trying to kind of fill spots. And so because of that, the LA to OKC shuttle is up and running in a big way. I mean, we saw Justin Robleski a week or so ago. That didn't go particularly well. We've seen Knack. We'll see Bobby Miller tonight. So, I imagine this is kind of what it's going to be, certainly in the short term. And, fingers crossed there are no more injuries and no more significant ones. But I would imagine that this is not the last time we'll see something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody asking in the chat right now, Jasmeet, if I'm saying that correctly, when is Gonsolin coming back? We could see Tony Gonsolin get a spot in this rotation sooner rather than later to fill in until Blake Snell. But eventually we're going to get to that point where we are actually faced with that question. We asked ourselves a lot in the offseason leading up to this season during spring training. It's like, what are they going to do with all this starting pitching? It's not going to be a lot of Landon Knack and Justin Robleski if all things go right, because you do have Blake Snell, Yamamoto, Sasaki, Clayton Kershaw heading out on a rehab assignment starting today at AAA Oklahoma City. Tyler Glasnow still lives and exists. Dustin May has been really, really good so far to open the season. So they got a lot of pieces. Gonsolin in there. It will continue to get better, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. It's going to get better. There's too much talent, too much depth on this team for it to not get better. You mentioned the center field issue because that's one that seems to raise its head pretty frequently here. Travis Rogers made a really good point a couple of weeks ago that basically they're going to have a hole kind of in the spots Tommy Edman isn't, right? Like when Edman is at second base, then center field may be an issue. When Edman's in center field, then you got to worry about what's happening at second base and so on and so forth. I mean, for the moment, it appears that Andy Pages is going to get every opportunity to sink or swim here. How long do you think they give him before they really seriously look at making a move?
Dave recently had mentioned that the same number that he mentioned with Gavin Lux last season when he was struggling, and he was really like, he was the guy everybody was coming at with the torches and pitchforks, but he likes the 150 at bat mark. Then again, he didn't really adhere to the 150 at bat mark last year. It eventually worked out, but I think much like we didn't see with James Outman last year, with Andy Pages, they're going to give him every opportunity to figure it out. And whether they do have to find a way to sort of reconfigure that outfield where he is in right field, Teoscar slides back to left field. And that's another one of those down the road type of things. But I mean, we're talking about Pages where both sides of the ball aren't always crisp. I will say we're seeing him play a little bit better brand of baseball in recent days. He's hearing the chirps. He's this is probably the first time in his professional life that he's really struggled. So he's kind of learning on the fly here how to deal with it. But I'm, I, we're talking about one dude, in the
Yeah.
lineup. I think you can get away with having one hole. Ideally, you want a better defensive center fielder if you're trying to go out there and win a championship for sure, especially when your right fielder and left fielder aren't the best defenders. Right. But I mean, if we're talking Pages, I think we got to look around him, and you need to get more out of like Max Muncy to help him out, which we're seeing Max take his walk, so that helps me feel like we're getting closer. Edmund keep doing what he's doing. Will Smith doing what he's doing. Need to see more out of Michael Conforto. And then all of a sudden, Pages isn't as big of a deal. But it's definitely something you need to be continue watching over the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think for sure. You mentioned the point about Muncy, and I have seen some increased patience out of him. I felt like, a week or so ago, he really was chasing. You could sense that he was pressing, but he's had 2 walks in back-to-back nights. Didn't have a strikeout last night. So it does feel like that's starting. It feels like it's starting to come together, right?
We're back.
We're back. Last night, though, I was very encouraged to see the bottom part of the lineup contributing, right? You had 4 hits out of Edmund. Chris Taylor had a hit. Andy Pages had a hit. Again, in what seems like a redo of last year, Clint, we spent a lot of time talking about the bottom of the order needing to come together. I'm hoping that this series is the start of something good for that group.
Yeah, a nice showing, because I think heading into that game or heading into the series, they were hitting like the bottom 5 in the lineup are hitting a combined 176 or something like that. It basically very much on that struggle bus. But last night, I'm trying to find the numbers that I had written down last night. Bottom of the lineup, coming through, earning their walks, and they were. I can't find my numbers, but they were good. The important thing is they were good. There we go. Bottom of the lineup is better for what we've been used to. 2 for 8, 3 walks. I think there might have been a hit by pitch in there for Andy Pages. So continue to get them going. CT3 capitalizing when he's getting his opportunities to actually be in the lineup. Now, if they can keep going, and Marcus, keep in mind, the Dodgers won last night with hardly any basically no production out of Shohei and Mookie. You take those kind of wins all the time, and you get everybody firing. This is going to be a very dangerous lineup. We still haven't seen, that 10-15 run eruption from this team.
Yeah, they only had they had 10 hits last night. I think they had 10 hits the night before. So the offense looks like it's starting to kind of come to life again. And I do like that back-to-back nights. Last night you mentioned it was the bottom of the order getting a lot of the work done. The night before, it was the top 4 guys in the order that pretty much did most of the damage there. So at some point, they're going to put it all together, and they'll get both sides, both halves of the lineup working all at the same time. I did want to ask you, you mentioned James Outman. I mean, it feels like his future with the organization is very much in doubt. It just feels like there's no room for him. Not that he's a bad player, but it just doesn't seem like they have the luxury or the patience to sort of give him opportunities anymore.
Yeah, I think as a Los Angeles Dodger, the James Outman ship has sailed. He will remain on the 40-man roster until they need a roster spot or they facilitate some sort of trade. But he's not even necessarily putting the pieces together at AAA. And he would be an absolute difference maker if we can get that dude that we saw in 2023, because he is a very good defender in center. We know he's got some show pop when everything is going right, but I think the league caught up to him and surpassed him, and he couldn't keep up. So I would be absolutely floored if we see James Outman make an appearance with this team again.
Yeah. I think it's unfortunate. I think he's a good player, but as you mentioned, just hasn't been able to figure it out, especially offensively. And right now, there's too many guys competing for not enough spots, and it just seems like, no pun intended, he's the third man out in this whole thing. So, just kind of get your feelings on that a little bit.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts about how this bullpen has kind of come together, or really looking at this kid, Jack Dreyer, who has been an absolute revelation? I think I saw there was a number I rattled off last night. Opposing hitters are hitting like 0.79 against him. He's allowed just 1 run over his last 15 or 16 innings or something like that, 16 strikeouts. Dude has been nasty and kind of giving the Dodgers some tough questions when Michael Kopech and Evan Phillips return. But what are your thoughts on the early look of this bullpen?
No, he's been great. And I was going to mention that to you. Right. Yeah, he's been fantastic. Comes out and gives them another, inning into 2/3 of scoreless, 4 strikeouts in the time. And he has been absolutely
Nasty,
filthy, and I'm curious where he currently ranks in the Dave Roberts trust tree and whether or not he's been able to climb up a branch or two on the trust tree, and maybe get some of those higher leverage situations. I don't know if that's happened yet, but I think he's done an excellent job with what they have asked him to do so far. And you're right, because we've talked about how, some of these guys are coming back. Kopech's coming back. Phillips is coming back, down the road, looking at getting Gratterall back and that sort of thing. Yep. And what that means for a guy like Jack Dreyer. I mean, I think at this point, it's hard to keep him out of the bullpen rotation at this point, until something else happens. But he's been fantastic.
Dave Roberts likes to tell us that job security is based on meritocracy with this team, and if he's sticking with that, there is going to be a fierce competition between Dreyer if he continues on this path and Anthony Banda, who was great last year, very, 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 very good to open the season this year, but has kind of fallen on a little bit of a struggle point in his last few outings. And again, eventually it's going to come down to you need roster space for higher leverage arms. So obviously, first guy, Luis Garcia, thanks for stopping by. You're getting the DFA. That one is simple. Welcome back, Philly. But after that, the conversations get a little more difficult when it comes to Banda, Dreyer. Dreyer does have options. Banda does not have options. And then, Ben Kasparius, who outside of one bad outing this weekend against Chicago, he's been really, really good as well. So it's a lot of good problems to have, but Dreyer, he's been fun to watch.
He's been fantastic. I was joking with the guys that, if he keeps pitching like this, an ice cream sponsorship can't really be far behind. I mean, the whole thing writes itself at this point. But no, he's been amazing. Turn our attention to tonight. Dodgers going for the sweep against the Rockies, and Bobby Miller getting the start on the bump for Dave Roberts and company. Obviously, last year was a very forgettable year for Bobby Miller. Just never was able to consistently put it together. Yeah. Clint, I know it has not been a great run for him at AAA. I mean, just what are you hoping for from Bobby Miller tonight?
Well, he's actually had a decent start to AAA. It's a super small sample size, but anytime you can see low numbers, 2.25 ERA in 12 innings. It's 2 starts. One of them was super short and a third relief appearance. But you just want to see him go out there, throw strike one, not get rattled when things kind of can go sideways. One of the knocks on him when he was making, his way up the minor league ladder was he struggles out of the stretch. The game, the pitching, the stuff changes out of the stretch. So runners are going to reach base, continue to, maintain that stuff, escape jams, limit the damage, find a way to work around it, but keep that brain focused on your catcher. And that was one of the things when in his debut season, even actually in his major league debut, he said, I didn't shake off Will Smith once. Stick to the game plan. Don't try to veer too much off path. And that way it's not on you if you go bad. It would be on your stuff if you leave a pitch, in a bad spot or whatever, but it's on Will Smith's game plan. It's on the Dodgers game plan. I'm feeling a lot more confident about Bobby than I was, after 3 or 4 or 8 starts last year. Cause that was rough. He's not happy about the way 2024 went for him.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a frustrating year for him, for the organization. And it was sort of interesting last year to watch him and Walker Buehler both trying to kind of figure out and sort of seeing them take diverging paths, right? Where as the season went on, Miller continued to struggle to find it. Whereas, Buehler got better. And obviously, he's able to cap it off by getting the final out of the World Series. And thank you for your service, Walker Buehler. So I'm very curious. I will say this, Clint. If you are Bobby Miller and you're looking to sort of, repave your path back to the big league rotation, it's nice to get the Rockies as your first opportunity.
Yeah. If you can't beat the Rockies, I don't know what to tell you. I think we might have a pretty good shot of running out there and getting some of your fellas, your cohorts there at ESPN LA, putting together a softball team or something, and maybe beating the Rockies. But it's a good soft landing for Bobby, and he, like I said, definitely needs to capitalize on this opportunity, because we already talked about how many starting pitchers are ahead of him on this depth chart to at least show something. He's not pitching just for the Dodgers; he's pitching for 29 other baseball teams with a start like this.
Any word on Teo Hernandez? I know it's it was called an illness. Yeah, he's missed the last couple of games. I mean, I'm not gonna say do we worry, but do you expect we'll see him back in the near future?
So Dave was asked about this yesterday. The expectation is if he comes in today feeling right, he should be in the lineup. He was in yesterday feeling a lot better. They went through all the tests and all the workouts and drills, and as far as we know, he got through them cleanly. So he should be in the lineup today. Finally get that big thumper back in your cleanup spot, and then have the day off tomorrow, and everything comes together. So thankfully, Teo isn't as bad as somebody like Mookie, who lost all that. We were very worried about him, but he's in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, Mookie lost all that weight, was down to like 155 pounds or whatever it was, and still was able to sock a few home runs in the first home series of the year. So whatever Mookie had, I don't say I want it, but if it makes me play ball like that, then I guess I'll tough it out for a little bit, something like that.
Reasonable.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, other than that, I mean, where this team is right now, we've talked about it. They are 13-6. They're a game and a half back. I know they still haven't played what I would consider a complete game. But it feels like, Clint, like this was sort of a thing they needed. They needed a series against a team that was a far superior opponent, and just, even if it wasn't pretty, Clint, just to come out and get wins. It just felt like it was kind of necessary for this group.
100%. And you're taking off again to play some better teams, Rangers, Cubs coming up next week. You have to feast right now, just so you can, even for all of us, just seeing a sweep or even taking the series, then it quiets those questions that the front office and mainly Dave Roberts has had the answers. Like, why are you guys, in so many words, why are you guys playing so bad? Like, what's going on here? You have all this money, you didn't lose the offseason. That's for dang sure. Beating the teams you need to beat goes a long way in helping this team out as they still, settle into the season. I had a conversation with somebody about the fact, like, hey, they open the season in Tokyo, they come back, and then it's ring ceremony, and then it's other pomp and circumstance celebrating the 2024 season. It's time to get past that and just settle into the grind of a new baseball season where everything's about that season, not what you did last year.
Yeah, I think so. I also think, look, they also really started with a tough schedule, right? I mean, they got a good Cubs team in Japan. Then they start with the Braves and the Phillies. I mean, back to back with playoff teams. They faced both Cy Young Award winners within the first week or so of the season,
and they excelled against them too. Yeah. All of a sudden, you go to Washington, you forget how to play baseball.
Which is wild because I don't know, maybe something about the Nats, because I remember the Nats came here last year early in the season and gave the Dodgers fits. I think CJ Abrams had a big series, and this time around it was James Wood that drove everybody crazy. So I don't know, maybe something about the Nats. If we can adjust the schedule, we'll take the Nats out of the early part of the schedule, we'll just fill it with the Rockies, and then we'll be off and running.
All Rockies. That's what I'm really looking forward to, is seeing this team play the Giants, play the Padres. Yes. That's one of the things that really bothers me about the schedule. Like, I don't think they see the Padres until June. You don't see the Giants until June either. It's not even June. It's July until we see the Giants. Like, that's a problem to me.
There's one in June. It's I'm looking at it right now. It's at the Padres, home to the Giants, home to the Padres. So it's all Giants and Padres for about 10 days.
Oh man, they really stuffed it in there, huh? And before that, you got some Yankees in there at the end of May, and also the Mets. Well, that's going to be fun. I'm sure we're all going to be reasonable in our thoughts and takes about the team then.
Of course, absolutely. What is reasonable, though, is hanging out with Clint Pasillas. One more time for the folks out there, where can they find you?
I am on the social medias as Real FRG. Give me a follow there for some reason if you want. Otherwise, I have my show on YouTube, All Dodgers Podcast with Clint Pasillas. I also co-host Dodgers Territory with Alana Rizzo. I'm around. I got a Discord and stuff. Check that out through my All Dodgers channel. We have fun talking baseball. We have fun complaining about baseball, and it's always fun talking ball with you, Marcus. Man, it's fun.
Absolutely appreciate it. Be sure to check Clint out, him and Alana Rizzo as they do their thing, of course, and check him out on socials as well. In the meantime, that'll do it for this edition of the Blue Review presented by LAX. Thanks to Parker for somehow wandering through the haze and getting us up and on, pushing the buttons and all that good stuff. Thanks to you all out there in the chat, and thanks to the folks at LAX for helping us put this together. As always, we will see you from 8:30 to 8:55 here on the ESPN LA YouTube channel. Stick around. Travis and DeMarco coming up after this. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.